Welcome to the CFL Outsider, a short series of totally impartial hot takes, odd takes, and generally unconventional opinions on the CFL and Canadian football, with your host and presenter, Old Man Shouting at Clouds.
Hey kids, welcome back to another episode of the CFL Outsider, Week 7. Embrace the chaos. Oh, what a week. What a week. I remain, as always, your completely impartial, 100% unbiased host and presenter, Old Man Shouting at Clouds. And yeah, it was a heck of a week for football. I mean, sloppy football in a lot of cases, but close games. They all ended up in the last 3 minutes. I went 2-2 on Pick'em I'm now at 20-8, so like 70%. And why did I have a bad week? Well, because tabbies and horsemen, stampeders, WTF, man, where did those games come from? And it should be another heck of a week coming up. But before we get to that, we got to talk about last week. Gonna do a little bit of a rant on the Adam Big Hill hit on Shea Patterson at the end of the game between the Bombers and the Riders on Friday evening there. Everybody's weighing in on this. It's become a huge thing now. Teams are defending their players and fans are defending their players, and we're never going to get an actual conversation about whether it was actually a fair hit or not. I mean, there's a lot of debates. Was it legal? Was it not? Was it cheap? Was it not? You know, things like that. I personally think that you can't legislate fairness into a game. Players have to come to a game with an attitude that I'm going to play hard, I'm going to play fast, I'm going to push myself and my opponents as far as I possibly can, but I'm not going to be stupid and I'm not going to try and hurt anybody. I'm going to play at that limit. There are some that don't. There are some that go over it on a regular basis and need to be disciplined by the league. On Friday night, I feel like Adam Big Hill went over that limit, but it's not a constant thing with him. He's been a class act. He's been a good player. I think it was just frustration of where his team was at in that game and in the season. And I think that if you ever got an actual honest answer out of him, if you get away from all the rhetoric, he'd probably say he regretted it, that he figures he crossed the line a little too. And that's all I've got to say on that. Game 1, Edmonton 14 at Ottawa 20. I don't want it, you take it. No, I don't want it, you take it. Drew Brown is a gunslinger. No question about it. It's going to be a hell of a ride in Ottawa this year. I don't know where they're going to end up in the records, but they're going to be a fun team to watch. They're playing some exciting football there. I think maybe we can all agree and get together and do a bit of an intervention for Jerry's Jackson with the Elk. It's time to end the experiment of Javon Leak out of the backfield. It's not working. You're not getting yards out of it. It's taking carries away from your regular running back, and it's slowing Leak down on the returns. You can see the extra workload has him down a step or two. So just stop that. Yes, he was a nice, shiny new toy to play with, but stop it now. Start building a proper running attack around Kevin Brown, who had 1,000 yards last year and could still be a heck of a running back for you. Just get that done. I also noticed, and I even marked the time down on this, 4:57 of the second quarter, Damon Webb of the Ottawa Red Blacks gave a clinic on how you handle a fly sweep. He was in position, hit the fellow in the backfield, timing was perfect, hit was perfect, 5-yard loss. That is how it's done. If you still got the game on tape, or if you get a chance to see it and you didn't catch that play, it's worth the trouble to go back and see it. I also noticed, and I loved almost as much, about 3 minutes left in the first half, Raquel Armstead, the running back for the Red Blacks, did one of those runs up the middle, and it turned into one where he kept his feet going, so the linemen, the big O linemen all came rushing in to push him in a scrum, and then the whole big D lineman got in him, and the linebackers, and they're just shoving back and forth, and it's this big dog, who's the more powerful one of it all? And they push him about 10 yards, and he comes down, and he goes down. That's fine. Except then the scrum disperses, and at the front of all these big dogs, the lead pusher for the Ottawa Red Blacks was Khalil Pimpleton. all 5'7", 172 pounds in the middle of that scrum moving along. I love that. I love that. It is going to be so much fun watching the Red Blacks this year. Oh. I also thought that Coach Dice with the Red Blacks made a brilliant decision that seemed to maybe confuse some people, but to me it was perfect. They're coming down towards the end of the game. They've got the 6-point lead. They've got a second down in in Edmonton territory, in Elk territory, I think within the 40. And there's a minute and change, I think, left on the clock. So they could do another running play and bring it down to probably somewhere under a minute. And then you could kick the field goal if you didn't get the first down. But a field goal, the winds were a little bit iffy that game. It was hard to say. And you got Leak back there. And if you kick a field goal and give up a return, now all of a sudden you've lost the game in the final minutes by a stupid mistake. So what does he do instead? He has his quarterback take the snap, drop back about 15 yards, and then take a knee, slide. Gives up the play there. Next play they punt, drain them another 20 seconds off the clock to that, so they're punting at like 41 seconds. And he's now moved back far enough that his punter's got better room to play with where he puts the punt. He can keep it close to the goal line, but doesn't have to worry about going to the end zone and the Elk getting the ball back on the 40 with 40 seconds left. And they only need, well, they need a touchdown, but still, much more dangerous thing. Great call, and it worked out. The return for the Elk went to the 19-yard line. I think they got in a couple other plays. They might even have been a roughing the passer penalty, but they didn't have a chance to get back in the game. He shut it down that way. Great call, Coach Dice. I also noticed here at the start of the game, Dunnigan was doing the color on this, and they always have the offense and defense that they put up there in the little groups, and they highlight one and they talk about how he's special here or he's special there or whatever. And for the O-line on Edmonton, they highlighted Brett Boyko. And I mean, I don't know Brett. He might be a perfectly nice man, but he struggles a bit playing tackle on the football field. So Dunnigan's synopsis for him was, well, there's Brett Boyko, who's back and healthy. And then to just sort of show it off on the very next play, Boyko almost gets beat, but not almost gets beat. He gets beat and almost gives up a sack. So let's go to game 2. Winnipeg 9 at Saskatchewan 19. Zack's back! Oh, no, wait, never mind. Thoughts on this game, observations? Well, the Stamps are usually very good at judging their talent, and when they start to get a little bit long in the tooth, they allow them to go on, letting somebody leave a year early rather than a year late, as the old cliche goes, and they've been very good at that. But man, did they miss the boat. Can you believe Micah Johnson, 4 years ago now, they said, he's tailing off, time to let him go. Are you watching him play this season? No tailing off there at all. That man is a tank. I'm a fan of Jaden Dalkey. I think he's a great safety. I think he really can play the game well. He's a hard hitter. He's a throwback that safety that comes across the middle and makes people pay. But I'm afraid he may be playing himself off the riders with the penalties he's taken. Misconducts, hitting people out of bounds, taunting, stuff like that. He seems like he's the one culture holdover from last year's riders. And I hope he can get it together and get his emotions in check, because I'd love to see him continue with that team, but he may not be a fit if he can't put it together. Also, Brady Oliveira is a hell of a running back. I mean, not much more to say than that. He was the only offense the Bombers had that night. And as good as he is, he can't carry the entire defense of the opposition and the Winnipeg offense on his back and still get yards. So, but he's doing everything he can. I loved seeing a Joe get in the game. Had a big game, of course. Came in when Schaefer Baker got injured. Made some good catches, some good yak yards afterwards, and blocks. When he's been in the games, he's blocking something tremendous. I really hope we get to give him 2 years. That's all I'm asking of the football guys. 2 years to enjoy him, and then he can go down to the States and make big money and wow them all down there. But give us a little bit here, because He's something else. And his attitude, smiling, happy, dancing, he loves that team. He loves being part of that team. You know, a 7th round choice, something else. And this is where I was getting to with all this. If you caught his post-game interview, what an attitude. He was talking about just doing whatever he could to help the team. And on blocking, he said, blocking is like 90% want to and 10% technique. And yeah, that's it. If you want to, you'll do it. Good job, young man. Love watching you play. I really do. I also have very little or no sympathy for the announcers, the play-by-play, the color guys that are complaining about how some of the jerseys are hard to read. In this case, it was the obsidian green for the Riders. Yeah, the numbers are a little bit hard to read, but that's your job. Work isn't always perfect. You've got to do what you do. You play on through, as they say. And you know what? The fans like the jerseys. No fans, nobody else in the CFL or the media or anything has jobs. So suck it up and make the call. And just a couple other quick thoughts on the game. Neither here nor there, but I noticed little things and they confused me at times. There was like 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Winnipeg was down by 10 points. You would think that they'd be trying to pick up the pace a bit and get a chance to score. And they still, on a punt, had their punter draining the clock to 0. So I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me. Mind you, Coach O'Shea is a much better coach than I am and has a better record and all of that stuff. So I guess he knows what he's doing. I think if you listen to this podcast very much, you realize I try to avoid things that are ifs. If this had happened or that had happened, because they didn't, and it doesn't matter. You can wonder all you want, you know. If ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a very Merry Christmas. You know, so I don't do that. But this one I have to mention. Winnipeg had kicked a long field goal, and Sergio finally missed one from 60. And so there was Mario Alfred at the back of the end zone, come charging up to take the ball at speed. He ends up running into an official who's trying to watch the ball and make the right call. And it's nobody's fault. It's not Mario's fault. It's not the official's fault. It's anything else. He gets the ball, gets control of it, gets it out to like the 30. So it was okay. But part of me just really wanted to see what would have happened if he caught that ball at full speed and got, 20 yards down the field before the cover team really got there. It could have been a beautiful thing. Mind you, he could have also tried to fumble it, picking it up at speed, and it could have been on the 5. So I don't know. That's why I don't do ifs and buts. But I do regret that missed opportunity. And last thing on this, found out Ratkovich got that touchdown for the Riders. Beautiful call by Mark Mueller. What an OC, making perfect calls. If you didn't see the game, they were down about the 12-yard line. Second and short, I think, and the box is all loaded up to stop AJ, and they just leak Ratkovich out from the tight end spot where he's blocking all game. He's wide open in the end zone, nobody near him. Easy pass, touchdown. Good to see him getting it. They're using an American at fullback, which is unusual, so it's good that they're getting something more out of it like that. And what I really liked is I found out post-game that his name is, of course, I think it's Clint Ratkovich, so his nickname is Rat Dog. There's a football name for you. So game 3, Toronto 24 at Hamilton 27. Sometimes it just comes down to who wants it most. Yeah, and my main observation on this game is the football gods reward effort. Where did that come from for the Tiger Cats? They've been inept and looking like they didn't have anything worth playing for. And all of a sudden, home crowd in front of a home crowd with the Argos, and they blew up. I mean, their offense still wasn't great. Bo, there's still something that, I don't know if it's confidence or what it is, but, he's throwing for a lot of yards, but when the games get close, he's missing a bunch still, too. So, I'm not sure about that, but the special teams and the defense certainly came to play, and they needed them. Needed the block punt and the defensive touchdown to come out with a 3-point win. But they got it, and they just had more jump in their step than the Argos did the whole game. Now, I got to say, there was one point where Janarian Grant was making a return and got tackled by his hair, which is legal because it is part of the uniform. Rainford, who was doing the color, said he thinks that that's a bit of a mistake because the mechanism is still the same as basically a horse collar tackle, where you're putting a lot of strain on the knees, pulling down from behind, and I have to agree with him. So I put this up on CFL subreddit as, one of the posts that I do. Oh, no, by the way, if you've come there from here and you're seeing this, a lot of the points you'll see are the same because I'm just sort of diversifying and trying to get that out there. Anyway, people made the good point on there that if he's got hair as long as his, how are you supposed to get past it to the jersey if you make pulling a down by the hair or a hair tackle illegal? And I don't know the answer to that. But I do think something needs to be done because we don't want to see a player with this kind of talent, and it doesn't have to be Grant. There's lots of players in the league that could be this kind of talent getting injured and out for a season or maybe ending a career because of a silly injury with that. So I do think we've got to find an answer. I don't know, maybe they can come up with some kind of little bag or something that sits on the back of his helmet and it all gets stuffed in there. I have no idea, but I hope they do something on it because it does seem like a dangerous situation. Other observation from the game? Well, I said this last week, but I think it bears repeating, especially just in case, say, Mike Miller, special teams coordinator for the Bombers, is listening. Do not let the Argos set up a middle return for Janarian Grant. Why? Just look at the last 3 weeks. That is a thing of beauty what they do there. You got to stop that. And that takes us to Game 4, BC 24 at Calgary 25. Breaking news, V.A. is human. I mean, he had a tough game. Calgary got to him early and knocked him around quite a bit. His ribs were obviously bothering him. I'm sure they're going to love having the bye this week. And it affected his game. He didn't play as well as he has in the past. So kudos to Calgary. They had a great game plan. They found something in that BC defense that they could exploit because they ran that same hitch screen to either side multiple times, and it went anywhere from, I think, 10 to like 50 yards every time on it. So they had that ready. They had their defense in ready to play against them, and he beat them on a few blitzes and stuff, but still they had the game plan. And more importantly, Jake Mayer, who I've said for a long time now, is not going to win you games, but he is a good game manager, and that's what he was in that game. He didn't make mistakes. They didn't go deep a whole lot. It was all short passes, using the running game where they could, and enough that a 1-point win, but against what everyone was calling the best team in the league. So good job, Calgary. I think if Mayer can embrace the idea that he is a game manager and really get good at that, along with the coaching of Dave Dickinson, who does more with less better than anybody else in the league, they'll be in it. They'll have a chance. I don't see them getting to the Grey Cup, but I think they'll be in the playoffs. What else can we talk about that? Oh, yeah. As I've started getting into this more, doing this YouTube podcast stuff and getting onto the CFL subreddit, and I've been getting more into fantasy and pick'em too, which I've always played just for the fun of it, but now I'm being a little more serious and trying to see where I sit. Maybe next year I'll be able to get into some proper leagues where I can go one-on-one with somebody or something like that. I found that looking at it through that perspective of fantasy and pick'em can really sort of make it a very complex set of emotions during the game. I mean, one outcome might be good for your favorite team, another outcome might be good for your fantasy, another one for your pick'em, and you start balancing it all. In the end, I still want what's best for my team, but the fantasy stuff, I found I'm really getting annoyed at PI penalties. I mean, there's a situation in the game. My fantasy quarterback, who's also my captain, double points, is throwing a nice long ball to my number one receiver, who's going to catch it just outside the end zone and take it in for a touchdown. Double points, building it up, fantastic. And then the DB panics and hauls down the receiver. I mean, to the team, it's still okay. They get the ball at point of foul, but there went all my poof. In a little puff, all went those beautiful fantasy points. I should mention here as well, I tend to give Glenn Suter a bit of a hard time on the color because he can be a little repetitive, and once you've heard him for a while, you pretty much know what his comments are going to be in any given situation. But if I'm going to be critical of him when I feel like it's deserved, I should also pump him up when it's deserved. And I think it was deserved. I think this game on Sunday night, the Lions and the Stamps. He was doing the color on it, and he was on. Glenn, you were engaged. You were entertaining. You were pointing out nuances of the defense in the game that I've been a fan for a long time. I've coached, minor ball. I know the game fairly well, and you were telling me things new, which that's what I want from a color commentator. Good job. Keep it up, please. And let's see, what else? Oh, there was a situation at the end of the game that was not an exact analog for the Saskatchewan-Winnipeg game, because there was about 3 seconds on the clock instead of 5. However, the quarterback took the shotgun snap, dropped back, didn't run around as long as Shea Patterson did, but dropped back, made the throw. Goes out of bounds, clock is down, we're gone. There was one of the BC defensive tackles, I didn't get the number, but he burst through the line and could have laid a good hit on Mayer. Might have got a flag for it, might not, but the game's over, so whatever. Anyway, what did he do in that situation? He ran straight past him. No sense hurting somebody when the game's over. I'm just saying. Now, that's about it for the games. I don't have a lot to talk about for the extra points this week, just a couple of things. They did the whole celebration with Wally Bono in Calgary, and well-deserved. Winning record with 2 different teams as a coach, and he really has been a cornerstone of the CFL. So that's great. Now they did, in one of the interviews, they asked him about if he was CFL commissioner for a day, what would he do? And he said he'd try and do U.S. expansion again. Now, that kind of surprised me, and I think I disagree with it, but it all depends what you're talking about. I mean, a lot of people are talking about this now, so there's lots of people talking about why they did it in the 90s, how the league needed money, all the rest of it, how it was a different situation. I do think that trying to do that, trying to put 4, 5, 6 teams down in the U.S. is a non-starter. There's a lot of reasons for it, all of which you can pick up on a lot of other podcasts, so I won't go through them. But I do think there might be an opportunity. The major junior A hockey in this country, I know in the West here and I think in the East, have some teams from just across the line down in the States, and it fits in well. So maybe we could do that. Maybe we could try just one more team, one U.S. team to get us up to 10, make it an even schedule. The labor laws are different down there, but if you sign the right agreements, they could have to follow the Canadian rules. Same number of Canadians as a Canadian team, one team, so that you'd have a U.S. rivalry in that, and something either close to the border, or the two that I thought of that might, just by population and stuff, might give you a chance, would be either Omaha in Nebraska, which is like, I think there's 1 million people in that city or close to it, and really no NFL teams very close to it at all, or perhaps Spokane, which is smaller. You're down to a city not a whole lot bigger than Regina maybe, and I don't know how much you would draw from the surrounding area, but a lot of CFL teams have quarterbacks especially that have played in Eastern Washington at Spokane. So you've got a tie there that might actually give them something that worthwhile. And the other one that I thought of was, well, a lot of people have been criticizing Boris Beatty this week, saying he was the most accurate kicker in the league last year, and he's trailed off. Well, 2 things. One, he had a tough game against Ottawa where the winds were swirling around, and Ward, who's a hell of a kicker, missed in that same end zone and that. And the other thing is, people, when players switch teams, they forget that sometimes what you're getting from a player is the result of the combination of player and coach together. The coach gets the most out of the player. Maybe that's what's happening here. Maybe it's just not quite the same level of coaching or the same style of coaching he needs to really keep him locked in on the games. And that's about it for this week. If you're enjoying this, I do have my other 2 shorter shows. Old Man Plays CFL Pick'em in under a minute. That's on YouTube and any podcatcher. And it is just me in under a minute, real quick, running through stuff. It's kind of fun. I like doing it that way. And Old Man Plays CFL Fantasy, that usually comes out on Wednesdays or Thursdays, depending, one day before the first game of the week. And let you know how I'm doing in fantasy and how I do my picks, and maybe it's worth learning something from, maybe it's not. I don't know. So, like I said, if you've enjoyed this, Please check those out. Also, share this. If you've got anybody else who's a football fan who might enjoy hearing what I've got to say, share it out there for me, please. And then, of course, subscribing. The button's going to show up on the screen right away soon. You can just click on it and get straight to a subscription. Also, the other stuff. Give us a rating. Give us a bit of a review or comments. The almighty logarithm loves all that stuff and will put things this way. And I like the comments, and please don't be afraid to be constructively critical in the comments. I want to know what you're enjoying and what I should keep doing and what I should do less of. So help me out with that. You can't get me on any of the social medias. I'm not there, but if you don't want to leave a comment and you just want to have a private message with me, you can always email me, oldman, all one word, .shoutingatclouds, all one word, at shaw.ca. Drop me a line there and let me know what you think. That's about all of it, I guess. So thank you for coming, and until next week, get the hell off my lawn.